But
Are you drinking this early in the day?
well, I think as I've got to drive and it's only 2:00, I'm on squash. But you feel free.
I did have one ready just in case.
Good luck. You dive in, mate. You dive in. But I have to go and do husband duties and pick the wife up from work.
No, that's fine. Water's good for me.
Right. Are you all right if we just crack on?
Yeah, it's trying to go through it all again now.
I know.
It'll be natural.
Folks, you've probably figured this out. This is Grant, by the way, Grant Spencer. How are you, Grant?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. We recorded this last night, but we had a major issue with my audio, which we didn't find out until we'd finished the podcast, basically. So we're re-recording today in the afternoon. It's going to be a little bit different, Grant, because obviously we've gone through all the questions and everything, but I genuinely thought that was a cracking conversation last night. You know, it was really interesting hearing about what you've been up to in your military career and, you know, now what you're doing with the books. So, folks, sit back. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. This is Bru Time, and this is Grant Spencer. Grant, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Right, so let's cut to the chase. Basically, you were a spy.
Probably from the outskirts, but no, I'm going to say no, I'm not a spy. Nothing like what you see on James Bond anyway. So, not a spy, just helped gather intelligence. And that may sound very grey, but, you know, it's we'll leave it there. But I don't like to use the word spy. And if I did, I'd get ripped to pieces by lots of people that know me and have also done the same job. So we're not spies, no. We're agent handlers.
Agent handlers. So you handled spies?
Yeah. Using the word spies, you know, it's that word. You know, it sounds more exciting than it is. So, handled. Some people might call them spies. Some people call them sources, also known as CHISs, which is a Covert Human Intelligence Source. So there's various names for them. Depends on what you want to call it. Depends on how exciting you want to make it sound.
Well, we want to make it really exciting. You obviously, by your very nature, don't. But so you had a military career, which we'll go through anyway. You moved into the Covert Human Intelligence Source handling side of things. You moved into another role within the military. Again, we'll cover all this, but I'm just giving people a brief outline what this is about. And then you've moved into civilian life, where you've become an author. You found a love for writing, and you've got a couple of books on the go.
I have indeed, yeah.
So what are the books all about? So
my first one has been released. This one here, good author always have it by himself. It's called Trust
Absolutely.
No One, and that's part of a 6-book series. So that's out. That came out last year. Doing well. The reviews are amazing, very humbling. Makes me want to write more, which is good. And the second one, I've only got a cover of it, but that's coming out in May, June. That's Bribed By Blood. And like I said, it's a 6-book series under my name, Grant Spencer, which is basically what stuff I've been involved in and experiences I've had, shrouded in a code of fiction to allow them to be released, because obviously the nature of what we're talking about. So that's the lead protagonist in that is a guy called Frank Tanner, who's based on myself. And obviously my nickname in the military was Frank because my surname's Spencer. Everyone called Spencer's known as Frank. So he's the lead protagonist throughout the 6. So you get to know him as you go through the books. And then on the side of that, I have a pen name called B Frank. And in that, I'm writing short stories, but of powerful topics that people don't really like to talk about. So I've just released one called You're Not Alone, which came out last week. Quite fortunate, within 24 hours, that went to number 1 in the ebook new hot list chart, featured in the top 5 of another 3 charts. And that's exploring topics like that particular one was to do with suicide, topics that people don't like to write about or certainly don't like to talk about. So I'm trying to provoke emotion and increase conversation about these topics. The second one comes out in a couple of weeks, which is called Trapped. And that's under my pen name, B Frank. So I work under 2 different names as an author.
Gotcha. We're gonna go into more detail into both those sort of lines of books. But I think it's really quite interesting to find out more about, you know, your life story, what took you down that path. You firstly into the military, then to specialise within the military, and then when you came out, you know, what's taking you down the line to be an author. So if we can go back, What made you join the military? Like, how did all that happen?
Well, I was quite fortunate. I was one of the rare ones that knew what I wanted to do from a really young age. So where I was from, a place, a county called Hertfordshire, just north of London. From a young age, there used to be a fete on the common, local common, and you used to go over there as a kid. And I thought it must have been about 6, 7, about that age. And they had a Royal Navy careers van in there, and you used to get, I remember you get those little fluffy things with a little sticker on it, and the paper hats, which used to tear to pieces every time you put it on your head. Loads of posters of exciting warships and helicopters and stuff like that. And they had models inside this back of this lorry and stickers. You know, for someone of my age, 6, 7, it was like the best thing ever. Yeah. Took them home, had them on the wall. It was from there, and they also had the Sea Cadets there doing the field gun chasm. I'm sure you recognise the field gun from the Royal tournaments.
Yeah. Worked with some boys
awesome
that did
to watch. Never been involved myself, but awesome to watch. And had a ride in the chasm, ended up joining Sea Cadets, met some very influential people in there, which were great. Went to the careers office, got talked into being a submariner, and then joined into submarines. Wasn't my intention, didn't even know what a submarine was till I walked in the careers office. When they were with my dad, they clearly had a quota of certain people that they needed to fill. They show you this video about how great being a submariner was. Extra money, hotels when you go on foreign deployments.
And you fell for it.
Stuff. And I fell for it, yeah. They missed out the bit about cleaning toilets, polishing decks, and being stuck underwater for 3.5 months. But that aside, it was the best move I ever done. And the brotherhood I met during my submarine time was amazing.
What is life like in a submarine? Can you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I ever went away, I was a trainee. So my bed was down in the bomb shop, which is a torpedo room, and they have these racks that they place between the 2 torpedoes. You'll have a bed, so you have to crawl over a torpedo to get into your bed. Not that you got much sleep, because whilst you're a trainee, part 3, or SMQ as they call it now, you're not allowed to sleep. When you're not working, you need to be learning the systems of the submarine to qualify to get your dolphins, which is these beautiful things here. There's my phone there. So once you're qualified, you get these set of dolphins, and that means no one can take those away from you. You're qualified for life as a submariner. So when I first went down, I was too busy. I didn't even know we'd dive, to be honest, and didn't come up for 2.5 months, I think it was, after that first time. So that was interesting, but got qualified, got my dolphins in a tot run when I got back, and you down the tot run and catch the dolphins in your teeth, and that's how they're presented to you. But life in a submarine, it's tight, cozy, but the people are amazing. So it's 130 blokes inside a steel tube. The banter is good. The morale goes up and down, but if you don't like having the piss taken out of you, it's not the place for you. It really can get quite harsh, but in a good way. It's all character building. And because you work 6 on, 6 off, you don't really have much time to yourself anyway.
That's constant, 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 7 days a week until you get off the boat.
And you hot bunk, so when it's your turn to go into bed, you'll get in there, then you'll get out, you'll change the bedding over, and the next person gets in there. So it's always cozy for you when you get in there.
I was going to ask, do you change the bedding?
Yeah, literally. Just
I think we all know what blokes do.
Yeah, flip the bedding over. It's all good.
What is the stench like on a submarine after 2 months at sea?
It's not too bad. I mean, you look at the technology of a submarine, we generate our own air through seawater. We generate our own water through seawater, and that's how we live,
I didn't realise that. I thought it just magically recycled the air somehow. Thinking about it, how would you do that?
Well, the air is recycled as well, but you bring the air in, you bring the seawater in, and then you draw look at the chemical element of it, H2O. You draw the oxygen part of that out from the hydrogen, and that's where we get our air from. We generate and put that through filters and scrubbers, we call them, and then it gets put back into the submarine.
Wow, I suppose it's just like a set of gills, isn't it? Set of gills on a big boat.
With the water, we bring that in through seawater, generate water with no minerals in it. So just, and we use that as well. Demineralized water is what we make our wets from and cook from and wash in and all that. So.
What role did you have within the submarine?
So I was a sonar. So obviously when I was on a submarine, you don't have any windows, so your ears are your eyes.
Yeah.
So, we listen to what's in the water, and from there we can work out where things are, navigate our way through. But also part of that job is to find certain things that don't want to be found as well. So that's very much what I did: classification of contacts, finding the enemy, or the people that are trying to hide, and get to places that we shouldn't be, as quiet as we can to do what we need to do.
Now, in the films, you see people like doing that role who are just like this, and they're listening. All right, that's a dolphin, that's a killer whale, that's a crab, all that sort of stuff. Like, is that true to life in the sense of you have to be able to determine what all the different noises are, or do these days is it technology that takes over that role and interprets it for you?
That's all training and then experience. As the more you do it, you become more experienced and you understand what you listen to. So everything in the water makes a noise, and sound travels further in water. So it travels an average of 1,500 foot per second. In comparison. It's more denser. And that is also taken into account salinity, water temperature, depth of water, all these, these elements change the speed of sound in water. Yes, but when we listen to things, so, if we listen to a ship, we can listen to it. We can work out how many blades, how many shafts it's got. Is it heavily laden? Is it light? What kind of vessel it is depends on the revs. We can count the revs, do some math to work that out. And that's all done from experience, but everything has a characteristic, and we can work out certain things from characteristics, what they are. Where it's cavitating, for example, and obviously whales and shore noise, rain makes noise, so we can we can work out all that.
Is there? I appreciate there's going to be a lot of military classification here, but is it possible to be totally silent under the water?
I'd say it's impossible to be totally silent because we're a mechanical vessel. There's always something that's going to be moving or humming, or the best thing we can do is try and make ourselves as quiet as possible. So in certain areas, we'll shut down machinery and we'll reduce our electrical loads and stop cooking. So we'll eat cold food for ages, just to keep ourselves as quiet as we can. Depends on what we're doing.
And what sort of timescale are you looking at? Like, how long would you have to do that, like to be operationally silent for?
Well, you plan to be operationally silent as soon as you dive, but to go to extreme silent, then you're really trying to. It depends on the nature of what you're doing. It could be a few hours, could be a few days.
Okay, but so it wouldn't.
But you're silent anyway. You don't go around shouting or dropping pans or anything like that. So everyone is naturally quiet on board anyway.
Got you. Okay, got you. So, from the life of a submariner, how did you end up doing the CHIS, the Covert Human Intelligence stuff? How did that come about?
Yeah, I got to about 12-year mark, and I'm in an RN if I wanted to still be in the military, or if I wanted something different, and I felt I needed a bit more of an edge. So there was an opportunity to go and do a thing called Samson, which I applied for. So anyone in the military, from no matter what background you're from, you can apply for it. And then you go on a pre-select, and then if you pass the pre-select, then you get loaded onto the selection course from that. And I just fancied a change. You used to have these people who used to come around and talk about it, to recruit. And I remember just thought, that sounds like a bit of me. I need to give that a go. So I applied, and it was successful completion, obviously.
Now, we were chatting about this last night. I Googled like Samson, which is what this is, isn't it? It's what it's, or certainly what it was termed back in the day. And even to this day, there's not much online about it. It's still sort of kind of cloak and dagger stuff. And people all across the military, from just about every branch that I could see, everyone is in agreement that it's a tough course with a massive attrition rate on it. So the fact you passed that, I mean, that says something about your character, mentally and physically. Like, what sort of attrition rate are we looking at with that?
So when I was there, I also worked on some of the training team as well. So I was fortunate to train people and take people through selection. Obviously, some were successful and many weren't. I'd say an average intake of, if I looked at how many courses came through, say 1,000 people. No, that's a bit too much. Say 500 people a year, and you're probably looking at 30-ish. It's low, 10% max. will possibly pass.
Wow. And what sort of, I appreciate you maybe can't go into great details on it, but what sort of things are like tested in that selection? What can you give us idea as to what you have to do?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was an idea because I came from a submarine background, so I was the first submariner to ever pass Stop Samson.
Wow.
And it was because I'm from a background where I don't deal with weapons, etc. Not to that level, I'm in a steel tube, I fire torpedoes. I don't have handheld weapons and stuff like that. So for me, everything I was trained to do, I was very much a sponge, as where people from other backgrounds like Royal Marines, the Army, they had naturally had habits embedded into them, which sometimes backfired on them and, caused them to sometimes pass selection because they naturally did what they knew rather than what they were being taught. So I was better off in that way. But some of the courses, it's not just physical, it's mental as well. So you've got to be physically fit, but what they're looking for is the mentality never to give in. So when the chips are down and you've got nothing else left to give, then you need to find it and you say, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to finish this. And then you just push yourself to that extra level.
So are they specifically looking to break you? Or do they just have a point that they'll go to, and then if you get to that point, great, you've passed? Or do they look, right, we want to see how far, where is this person's breaking point? And they just keep going and keep going?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there is a breaking point in there they're looking for. I mean, I've been in phys sessions where, they keep going and they're probably just waiting for one more person to give in and they'll end the session. And you'll see someone, they'll say, do you know what, I've had enough, and stop. And as soon as they've done that, he said, confirm that he's given up, and they give up, and then then they'll blow the whistle and say that's the end of it. And he's like, I've just, they're waiting for these options. For example, some of the ones you do, I think called a vominator, where you get beasted around the woods. It's just running, it's physical, baby carrying people, grid sprinting up hills, all sorts. And then you'll come across a car in the middle of the woods, and they'll be open the boot, and they'll say you've got a minute to remember what's in the boot. And then they'll shut the boot, and then off you go running again. And it could be later that day, the next day, or 2 days later, you'll get a piece of paper in front of you and said, listen what was in the boot. Oh my God, I just had it whilst being beasted. And we're talking like detail of 20 pence piece, head side up, Nokia 3210, switched on, green. We're looking for all those kind of details in there. It might be a piece of paper and there with a number on, you've got to remember that. So that's the mental side. They're trying to get you to remember everything about what's happening. But like the physical side is, we used to, on top of that, after that vominator, you used to come in for an upper body session. And all they're trying to do is weaken you and try and get you so you've near enough got nothing left. And then one at a time, they'll pull you out the gym, and they'll put a gum shield in you, chuck a set of gloves on you that feel like lead balloons, and they'll say, react to what you see. And they'll push you in a squash court, and right behind you are two fresh as daisy people who are already past selection. They're already handlers, will come in and basically just pound the shit out of you for, I think it's 2-3 minutes. I can't remember what it was now. But you just got to go. And all they're looking for is that you're going to keep going. You're not going to give in. Your mentality is, I will survive. I will come out on top. And they want to see you put what you've been taught, the unarmed combat and stuff like that you've been taught. They want to see that being utilised, even when you've got nothing left and you're mentally and physically drained. That's what they're looking for. If you get on the floor, they want you to get back up again. You don't lay on the floor, and you just got to keep putting your best effort in to survive that 2-3 minutes to get out of there. But actually, some of that is in there. Actually, there's a chapter in there. Which I quite enjoyed writing. Actually, it was some good memories come back when I was writing those bits.
Yeah, I bet it's quite cathartic, really, to sort of relive everything and then put it all down in your own, to an extent, in your own words. Obviously, there's got to be a degree of sensitivity around certain parts and certain bits of information, but it must have been good to get all that out on paper again and sort of relive parts of it in your head. Maybe not good in others, but it was some good memories. It was nice to come back and remind myself of the people I used to work with. I'm still with friends with quite a lot of them anyway. But yeah, it's just nice to put that down and see the funny side of it, even though some people wouldn't find it funny. But you having your mate kick the shit out of you for a couple of minutes is quite funny, because I'll be on the other end soon kicking them. So all good in friends. I'm interested about those aspects of selection. Like the elements that they're looking for, that ability to to pick up on detail, retain detail, and that never give up mentality. Like we did chat about this in depth last night, but is that something you've always had, or is it something which has been trained into you? Apologies for interrupting, folks, but a quick shout out for this week's sponsors, who this week are Ultimate Add-ons. Bit of spiel to read out for them. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. Now, if you head to Ultimate Add-ons, links down below, it's just Ultimate with ADDONS, all one word, ultimateaddons.com. Use the code TeapotOne, that's Teapot with ONE at the end, TeapotOne, then you'll get 10% off their entire product range. That also works for Dango Design UK as well. I've never had any vibration issues with the cases that I use. I've got one for my iPhone and I use the Hex sort of strap. It's in the pedal cycle section. It's just like a ratchet strap which allows you to pretty much attach it to absolutely anything, and then your case attaches to that. So a massive thank you to Ultimate Add-ons for their continued support.
I think there's an element of both. You've got to have some kind of mentality, or some type of personality to be able to do that. And then on top of that is where they add the training into it. But from the pre-select and the select is where they're looking at the raw ability that you've got. And if they can see that raw ability in you, then they'll develop on that. But obviously a lot of it's down to you as well, wanting to continue and passing what needs to be passed. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, you could be in positions where you need to remember a lot from someone, a lot of information that could be given you, and you might not have time to write it down, or you might not be able time to write it down for a day or a few hours. So you need to absorb all that, be able to understand it, recast someone, and then make sure the job's getting done. So being able to retain all that kind of information and then still get that across when you can to the powers that be, whether it be writing a report or just verbally reporting that, so you need to remember that in detail.
Gotcha. So the role of an agent handler, is that, I appreciate it's Hollywood, but when you look at things like, Jason Bourne, James Bond, all that sort of stuff, your role isn't Jason Bourne, James Bond, that sort of stuff. Are you more like, trying to think of characters' names, but people like, say, Q, for example, the ones who have the contact with the spy, and they're telling them, go do this, go do that, or is that sort of role that you fulfilled?
I think, a lot of people look at, the Jason Bournes, the James Bonds, the Jack Reachers.
Yeah, it's Hollywood. I appreciate that.
It's Hollywood, yeah. And it's nothing like that at all. But the role we sort of play is, we're very much known as grey men. We're not there. We disappear. We're not hiding in the shadows or trying to be a ghost, but we're trying to blend in with your natural surroundings. So whether that be how you dress, whether you darken your skin, grow a beard, wear local attire, we're blending in. So we're being grey, and that's what we fundamentally base ourselves on, being able to just disappear into the surroundings, just to pass a first glance, not for someone to have a look at you twice and oh, that's not right. So it's to be able to move about without being seen, to get to whoever we need to try and get to, or to meet whoever we need to meet. So you would.
Sorry, go on.
So then once we're in touch with that person, then the work begins.
Okay, so you're actually given a contact, a target to acquire and develop. You don't. Your role wasn't to actually go out and source. Right, they could be a chiz. You were actually given them. Or is it a combination?
It's both. It's a combination of both. So sometimes you might have to source. That could be a really long process, or it could be quite a hard-hitting process. Depends on the demand of the information that we need. So yeah, we do that, and also there's long-standing chizzes that have been run for a long time. So those sources, they might have been handed over to me once I've got to a certain theatre, and I might hand them over to someone else. So there's some long-standing ones, and there might be new ones that develop, and that could come from a patrol report from a foot patrol that points out that someone might be of interest, and then we can go and look at those people and see where we go from there. But it's not also just about the one person. We might target one person to get to 3 people further down the line, because that's actually the person that's of interest, but we can't go direct to them because of the nature of what they do and the circles that they mix in, or the organizations they work for. So we've got to be very candid in how we do it, and we also have a legality with the people that we work for. We can't send them on a mission that's going to get them injured or killed. We have a legal responsibility to make sure that we train them if necessary, that we task them of the stuff they're able to be tasked to do, and not put them in harm's way. Sometimes, though, they choose to put themselves in harm's way, and that then becomes difficult. So an element of what we do is we control people. So we have to have that control of a person, and whether that be a financial hook or another way of controlling them, but we have to make sure that they're going to do what we tell them to do and when we tell them to do it, and then run their life for them almost. But we only do it because we want to. There's no good having a chiz that's going to go and get themselves killed. It loses our source of information as well. So we want long-standing good chizzes, and we train them and develop them and increase them. If we need to move them into different circles, we can work with them to get that done.
What makes a good chiz? Like what personal characteristics make a good chiz? What are you looking for?
Well, I suppose you're looking at someone who's clear, able to keep a secret or a cover story. They've got to be able to maintain that cover story, so they've got to have some credibility. There is an element of trust in there. We have to understand that information, and are they telling us it because they just want some money, or is it true? And we can corroborate some of that information using other sources. So we work hard on that. But yeah, it's hard. You have a natural instinct of who's good, who's not, and the more time you spend with them, the more you can see actually this is going somewhere it's not, and you can choose whether to continue the relationship or end it. But it's quite hard. We use interpreters, which are second to none. They're amazingly intelligent people, and for me to be able to talk to some of these people, I don't speak the language fluently. I have to bring an interpreter in, and for them to transfer the way I say something and the emotion I'm saying it in across into whatever language, and then reciprocate the source's language and emotion back to me is key to understand the importance of what we're trying to develop, and stress how important some things are.
It's interesting when you said about you have gut feelings about people, when you read people and you can be a good judge of character. It struck a chord with me because I used to think I was a good judge of character, like Days on the Door and then through into the Old Bill. You're constantly reading people all the time, and you rely on that ability to almost instantaneously decide what sort of person, maybe not what sort of person they are, but what person they are at that time when you see them. Like when you see that person in the street, are they a physical threat? More importantly, are they telling the truth? Are they hiding something? All this sort of stuff, and I used to think I was good at that, but I found that the more I specialized within the Old Bill and moved to very basic surveillance levels and then through into the firearms world, I seem to, time after time after time after time, I seem to get proven wrong. Like times when I thought I'd read somebody and I believed what they were saying. Somebody else I was working with would just be like an iron wall, and they'd just be like, nah, he's bullshitting. They'd nick him, they'd bring him in. You'd find out that they'd nick him for anything that they possibly could, and bring him in and find out that they'd given us the wrong details on their identity and they're actually wanted, or closer at home, I've had people who I've regarded as good friends within the Old Bill And turns out they were doing horrific things, and they're in prison now, or it's gone even worse for them. And it really almost not reset, but it humbled me massively, because I suddenly thought to myself, that's not, I can't trust my own innate ability to read people, my instincts. Yeah. And I found that really quite unsettling. Has that ever happened with you?
I think, again, it feels natural, but you can click when something's not right. I think that's an element of a part of the training and the people we're dealing with. We're not dealing with your average Joe on the street. These are a little bit more extreme. So there's a lot of research that goes on, beforehand, and you're constantly double checking, and you're looking at your environment around you, where you are, what you're doing. If it feels wrong, 9 times out of 10 it's wrong. I've always gone on that, and I think you see that in everyday life now. You naturally meet people, and you can instantly hear something about them that you don't like, and you may not even said hello to them, but there's just something about them. And I've always gone on that gut instinct, and it's served me well so far. Yeah.
If it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It's a duck. Yeah,
it's a duck. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. There's always outliers, isn't there?
Yeah.
So what sort of? Obviously, I'm aware we had this conversation last night, didn't we? So I'm aware there are limits on what you can say. It's a lot of sensitive information, but is there a typical day-to-day structure for that role that you possess? What's a typical day for a chiz handle?
Oh, there isn't really. Some days you might be busy, some days you might not be. Sometimes it's overt, sometimes it's covert. It all depends on who we're meeting or who we're trying to get hold of. Like most things, like in the bill, you always have a daily brief, stand up in the morning of what's going on, and we go from there. But things can adapt. You all of a sudden might have some information that comes in that we need to urgently meet someone, or then we have to hit the ground and go from there. So there's no real structure, really. It depends what theatre or country you're working in as well. So that changes as well.
And do you have a particular specialisation that you work in the sense of, I'm only thinking about chizzes in the Met, in the old bill, you'd have chizzes for normal street crime, for everyday burglaries and, the gang sort of stuff that were going on, right up through to chizzes for international terrorism, attacks on London or within the UK and stuff. So there were different levels all throughout. Is it the same within the military, or is it just you deal with everything that encompasses the military's role?
You deal with everything, but obviously that they're at different levels. So you got low level and high level. So you deal with everything, but I might have say 10 chizzes that work for me, and half of them might be low level, some might be medium, some might be high. You deal with everything. And we try, if we get new ones in, we also try to match personalities as well. If there's some personality or similarity, that always helps, because it's all about rapport and building that relationship. If you can establish a good relationship, it goes a long way.
Gotcha. Surely, I've seen the films, it's all about going to big president dinners and shagging. Is that not what it's all about? Surely.
Yeah, Aston Martin on the driveway,
martini, all that.
Martini, shaken off there. Yeah. No, if only it was.
So you didn't leave that role and go straight into Civvy Street. You returned back to Submarines, was that right?
Yes, I got returned. Sounds like that was a voluntary choice. It wasn't. The submarine service was really low on manning at the time, so they were basically pulling any submariner from wherever they were back into the fold. I had a friend who was in 2-2 that got brought back. And again, like me, for his final years, he wasn't allowed to go back to what he was doing. I wasn't allowed to go back to what I was doing.
From SAS?
Yeah.
God, I bet he was happy about that.
Yeah, and then we're sitting on the submarine underwater again. So once we'd got to the end of our 22, I ended up doing 22 and a half years. I got offered another 5, but I couldn't go back to agent handling. I had to stay on submarines. So I chose to bow out gracefully before I got bitter with the situation I was in. But I loved I loved my 22 and a half year career. Wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, it was great, amazing. I think if I stayed agent handling to the end of my time, there would have been opportunities to go into various agencies as a civilian doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think once you're outside that network, so as I was for the last couple of years, it's really hard to get back in. You're quickly out the loop. So naturally left.
How was it moving into this civvy world, from the military? Because I know, and from my own personal experiences, I resigned, so I wanted to leave the old bill, but it's still hard moving away from that sort of close-knit family that you develop with the people that you work with, not the organization. I don't give two shits about the Met or the old bill, but I do miss the people I used to work with for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. If someone said, "Oh, it's an opportunity to go on a submarine tomorrow for 3 months," I wouldn't be going. I don't miss that. I miss the edge of the agent handling work. I definitely miss the edge there. But the biggest thing, the most important thing, is the people. Like you said, it's that brotherhood of people that's around you. Luckily, I'm fortunate to have a lot of them still as close friends, and some still serving, some veterans now. But obviously, it's always reunions and that. And don't miss the job. But if I had to leave, and I had to leave those people as well, and not have them in my life, that would definitely be a struggle. Those people are key to my life and how I operate as a civilian. And the banter and the similarities we have is there. The memories, it's important, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a coping structure as well, isn't it? Like we chatted again in quite depth about this last night, that they call it gallows humor, don't they? Like the black sense of humor that you develop, I imagine, is a way higher level within your role. But I know in the old bill, and I know a lot of Trumpton Fire Brigade and paramedics, nurses. Everyone has that sort of warped, quite dark sense of humor that you just have to develop.
Yeah, without a doubt. As I mentioned yesterday, we had that a particular person whose relative died of cancer. So we all brought him a pack of fags. It sounds sick to most people, but it's a way of showing that we care, because we're not emotional souls. So it's that way showing we're thinking of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that adage, isn't it, that if people aren't taking the piss out of you, that's when you need to worry, isn't it? It's if that's not happening, something's wrong. Yeah, for sure. So, becoming an author, how did this happen then? Is this something that's always been there, or is it just developed once you left?
I think it's something I've always wanted to write a book, but I think writing a book I didn't write a book to have a book published and go on the journey I'm going on now. I was writing a book because I wanted to leave my kids an understanding of what I'd done, so some of the things I'd been involved in, the experiences, etc. And so I started writing the book in the first person, as just something I was going to just print out and leave someone to find when I got buried, maybe. And a friend of mine had a friend of his who was into editing and publishing, and he passed that book over to me, to him, and he'd read it and contacted me. His name's Ian Rutter. He runs a publishing company called Grizzly Dare, and he's also a very established author. So if you're into anything to do with time travel or sci-fi, he's an amazing author, Ian Rutter. So he's got a publishing company called Grizzly Dare, and he contacted me to talk about my stories and is there more to it. And the more I wrote, the more I thought there is more to this. And I sort of had in my head, I sat down, I worked out, I've definitely got 6 books, which are the novels I'm currently writing with the lead protagonists. But at the time in the book, I was, because it was about myself and my family, I was married to my wife, Lucy. I came back and I said to her, look, I'm going to have to divorce you in the book. I can't be tied down.
Every married bloke's fantasy.
So I ended up rewriting those 20,000 words in the third person, picked the wife out. So I was no longer with her. She plays another character. Actually, I based her on another character later on. So I was divorced, still had kids. I thought it was important to have that family side in there, because there's a key part of that, which is in my writing, you pick out from experiences of when you're deployed and how you deal with your family and your kids. So I weaved that into the story, but obviously kept it quite private, not mentioning names or anything like that. So first one, but by the time I finished, was it 84,000 words? I think the first one was. Sat down with Ian at Grizzly Dare, went through it. Again, amazing editor. I learned so much from him, and the way he has changed my style a little bit as well, and taken out a load of gumph that I've used to put in there, but writing how I speak rather than how I should write. So I've been learning. So there's a great learning curve from him. So I thank Grizzly Dare for that. And obviously, they'll be going through the second one as well. So they'll have all 6, which is good. So yeah, it's just I just keep writing now, and the next stories should be out May, June. Love it.
Awesome. And they're all available on Amazon.
Yep. So, well, the first one, Trust No One, is on Amazon. So that's the first one. That's under Grant Spencer. Yep. Like I said, the reviews are really amazing, really humbling. They basically all say, can't put it down. When's the next one? I can ask for more. It makes me want to write more. The other ones, the short stories, which are the Be Frank ones, we could talk about in a bit. But so that's it. The novels are what they are. So there's a big one coming out next year. I've got to time that right. It's going to be quite a sensitive one. It's going to be around remembrance. So with some situations I was involved in. So yeah, interesting.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. That sounds interesting.
That one there.
We'll have to get you back on then. We'll have to get you back on. Right. There's a lot that we can chat about, but I'm aware, obviously, as we've run through this already, folks, there's a lot of questions here that address things that I want to talk about. So how about we crack on with the questions?
Yep.
We are also sponsored by the Influencer Store. Now, Roger and Charlotte over at the Influencer Store, they've been doing my merch for TeapotOne.com for quite a few years now. I used to use the standard sort of print-on-demand type web-based ones. It was nice and easy to do that, but the quality of the products were 2 or 3 washes and they fell apart. They'd lose their shape. And I wasn't really happy for my brand to be associated with that sort of quality. So I was on the hunt for some better quality merch. I saw Richie Vida stuff and thought, that's really good. Nice quality, really nice print, like the designs. And he pointed me in the direction of Roger and Charlotte over at the Influencer Store. And they've been doing my merch ever since. I get the feedback from you guys when you spend your hard-earned money on the merch and you seem to be happy with it. If you're not, please do let me know and we can feed it back. But I've got some spiel to read out from them. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design. And there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at influencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. And lastly, a massive shout out to all of you over in the clan over at patreon.com/TeapotOne. Could not do this without all your support, folks. We've got a fantastic community going on over there. Everyone's so supportive of each other. We do the ride outs, we do the meetups, and obviously you guys get first choice for the questions on the podcast. Thank you so much for all your support. I hope you're all still enjoying it. Let's get back to the podcast. Okay, folks, we will head across to the clan over on Patreon. So that's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, David Hosey. Greetings to both and welcome, Grant, to the Madhouse. During your time as a submariner, how did you break the tedious boredom at the sub-home of Faz Lane without getting drunk? Did you have a bike there? If yes, did you get a chance to ride a rocker roller coaster Lochside Road, or did you just toot around the Rossneath Peninsula? Yes, I was local to Faz Lane.
Well, he took the words out of my mouth, without talking about getting drunk. In Faz Lane, you had 2 options: you either became a fitness freak or an alcoholic. So there were your 2 options. But sometimes you could find a happy medium there as well. So I did have a bike up there. I used to go along some of the lock roads. The scenery is phenomenal. It is amazing up there. I used to go over to Dunoon, watch the Highland Games over there, which was amazing. American camp used to be up there, and they have Highland Games yearly. So I used to ride around up to there. I used to have any opportunity to go in the locks when the weather was good. Obviously, it wasn't always good weather up there. But it was deliberately built there for bad weather, so satellites couldn't take pictures. So that was interesting. But when I wasn't on the base, obviously we were out in Helensburgh having a few pints.
The Las Vegas of Glasgow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
What was I going to chat about there? Oh yeah, Submariners. About getting drunk. I remember I used to work at Downing Street in the Old Bill, and when Remembrance Day came, I think it was the week before or the week after. It wasn't on the actual day, but the Submariners would always be there before or after. I think it was before.
Week before, so first weekend. First weekend in November.
And I remember chatting to them, and they actually, one of them gave me a set of dolphins because I was on the front door of Downing Street at the time. So he actually gave me his dolphins. It was incredible. But he said, yeah, we're not allowed, we are still regarded as pirates within the Navy. So we're not allowed to do Remembrance Day with the rest of them. I always thought, is that bullshit? But then I had another Submariner on here, Hippodrones, Pete. He came on and he's ex-Submariner. And he confirmed it. Yeah. You're all pirates.
Yes, that's why we have our own one the weekend before.
I think that's cool. I love that.
Well, it's like drinking in the morning. Drinking rum in the morning. It doesn't make you an alcoholic. It makes you a pirate.
What was the reason? Why is it? There was a reason he told me why you're regarded as pirates.
So when submarines were first invented back in the day, obviously the Navy wanted them, but at the same time. Very much how we, because we snuck under the water, did things behind closed doors. We weren't considered gentlemen, and it wasn't gentlemanly like to hide and attack rather than walk towards the enemy and in all the glory.
Underhand.
Underhand. Yeah. So that's why they were considered as pirates.
Love it. Brilliant. Cheers for that question, David. Next one, Patrick Collum. Hello to you both. 2 questions for Grant. First, is there a situation you would describe that couldn't feature in a book, but you could share for one of those? Sorry, I'll do that again. That you could share for one of those I was there or pinch myself moments. So is there a situation you can describe to us that you couldn't put in the book, but it was one of those, holy crap, I'm here type moments?
I think there is some situations. One particularly stands to mind. It was more so. I wish I was there because I might be able to make a difference, rather than unfortunately I wasn't there. Some events that didn't turn out too well, and I sometimes wish I was there because you feel you could have made a change or a difference or saved some people. So apart from that, no. So yeah, I try and put most things in my book.
So what, like you're talking about saving people and stuff, like how do you, obviously it's not possible to go into detail, but is this with regards to specific attacks on places, or is it IEDs or?
Yeah, there's a couple of specific moments in my life where I was there and then went somewhere else or got moved on to go and do something.
Got you.
Just because of the way the situation was. But if I was there, you always play back in your mind. I wish I was there because I think I could have made a difference.
Got you.
Unfortunately, it's just the way things pan out and operations work that you have to be somewhere else.
How do you deal with things like that? Do you get help with stuff like that, or is it just left down to you to deal with and process yourself?
I think there's always they say there's help there. There is help there. I'm sure if I wanted help, I could find it. But then we're very good at putting things in boxes and decompartmentalizing it, and we open that box only as and when we need it. Some people like my wife Lucy would say, ask the question. Depends on what question you asked. Also depends on how much alcohol you've given me. Depends on how much someone feeds me of alcohol. Depends if they get the answer to the question they want. But it's I think you very much box it up. There are some charities out there. You've got Help for Heroes. You've also got Hand is Man Club. You've got these amazing charity organisations out there if people do want to talk. They're there if you need them.
Mm-hmm. It just depends, I think, on what type of person you are, Because I remember. I remember dealing with. I dealt with a situation at work one time where a guy pulled a shooter on me at one point face to face, and pulled the trigger, and it went click. It misfired in the barrel, thankfully, and then a whole load of other people sort of arrived. We were chasing this guy through South London, and he sort of spun the gun round at everybody. So there was maybe 6-7 of us standing in like a semicircle around this bloke, and things went on from that. We ended up another little chase, and we got the bloke, and you apprehend them sufficiently. But I remember after it, the aftercare initially was literally our governor, our inspector, just going, "You all right?" And most of us were like, "Yeah, fine, no problem." You go to the canteen, you have
pretty much
a
how
cup
it
of
is,
tea.
yeah.
You get on the bus and you take the piss out of each other. But I do remember there was at least one person who was just like, "Yeah, I think I could do with speaking with somebody, Gov." And it was interesting to see how different people deal with things, which I was aware of anyway, but to see it like that was quite interesting. And then to watch the whole mechanism, everything that's put in place for people when they ask for help, it's all there. But a lot of us were just like, "That's all right, you just crack on, you just get on with it, don't you?" So you don't you just don't deal with it, you don't use it, you don't utilize it. But I was aware it was there.
Like you said, the key thing there was no one asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
You look at yourself, I don't need to ask for it. I only noticed last few years that more people, veterans I work with, have come to me and spoken. I'm quite fortunate I've not had to speak to anyone because I've worked out myself, but some people still need to talk, and I'm always there for them. So but it's making that first step, isn't it?
Definitely. And it can be years later, can't it? It can be years later that it rears its head, and you're like, yeah. I think specifically when you come out of that environment where you are surrounded by like-minded people and you've got things going on all the time to deal with, so you can just put it to the background, can't you? You don't need to worry about it. But when you take yourself out of that world, sometimes every now and then things just sort of rear their head up a little bit, don't they? And you're like, okay, yeah, all right, we need to deal with this, get that sorted, and
then you put it back in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, I also remember dealing with, vagrants, homeless in London. And I remember this one lassie who, I mean, she was a junkie, a stereotypical junkie, nothing to this woman, skin and bones. And it turns out she was an ex-medic, and she'd been in either Iraq or Afghan, but she was like a decorated proper hero. But she'd come out for, I think, through, it was either injury or like a mental issue, and she just couldn't cope. She just couldn't cope with it, and that's where life had taken her. And I remember dealing with her on loads of occasions because she'd basically be off her nut on something, and she'd fall down the stairs into the tube, and like properly smash herself up. So you'd end up having to deal with her and help her. And just thinking, my God, how does somebody who has been in that situation where they've been so physically and mentally strong and dealing with incredible situations, and then all of a sudden, it's, life has taken them down that course, and they can't deal with it mentally anymore. I told what most people would consider to be nowhere near as frightening or demanding an environment, and they just couldn't. She couldn't deal with life in Civvy Street, I think, and it
happens.
Took her down that path. Yeah, it's terrible. I often wonder what happened to that lass, because I'm sure she had. I'm sure it was something like the military cross she got, like it was a real substantial medal that she'd had. I think she'd even maybe had 2. But yeah, anyway, sorry, digress. Yeah. Patrick also says, second, is there anything you think lends many ex-military types to becoming authors?
I think there's loads. I think not just military. Everyone's got a story in them. But I think with military, you've got a basis, a foundation of what you want to write about. You've got that experience. You've had the training and everything else. So fundamentally, you've already got a story. Your life is your story. Just putting that into words. And I say, if you've got a story, go for it. Write it. I'm quite happy to read it. I'll edit it, help you. So feel free to contact me. And I say, give it a go. If you've got something you want to write about it.
Yeah,
everyone's got a story in them, and people like my publisher Grizzly Dare, they're the perfect people to speak to. They're real personal touch. They're not like a big corporate organisation where they're just trying to churn out books. They care about your story, because at the end of the day, that's your baby. You've worked hard on that, and you don't want someone to come in and tear it apart and do what they want to do with it. So independent publishers like Grizzly Dare really took care of my story and made sure elements of it which they thought, does it need to be there? And when I explained, actually, there's a bit in there where I talk about the hum of the Hercules, and if anyone who ever sat in a Hercules and heard that hum, it would take you straight back to that moment, and stuff like that I need to keep in there. And they may not necessarily understand, but with someone like Grizzly Dare, you have that really personal touch, and they care about your story. So if you've got a story, get it out there, write it, go for it.
There you go, folks. Well, I'll leave all Grant's details down below, so drop him a line. Cheers for that one, Patrick. Next one, Rodney Lovegrove. Hi, Bruce and Grant. As a veteran submariner myself, I served during the Falklands War on P&O class submarines. I obviously understand the life we've both experienced. When you came up with the idea of basing your books on your experiences, did you come up against any vetting issues with the content?
Yeah, well, first, respect for him serving in the Falklands War on those P-class. That is a very small submarine. all to it. I've been down there a couple of times, but only for jollies. So
jollies in the Falklands.
Well, yeah, that's can't really put them together, but we went there for a trip. There we go.
Gotcha.
There is some process to go through, but I think when I write, I also check everything I write, and if I can find it on open source, internet or anything like that, then you pretty much can get it through. As long as you're not giving away anything, any processes or any names, times or dates, you can really, mix a bit of fiction in there. You can get away, you can pretty much get through the system. Obviously, you need it checked, but if you want to go full facts, you can do that. You've just really got to get it checked. The mod have people that deal with this, and they read the books and they'll give it a clearance, or they'll say this needs to change, or we can't put that in, or can we reword it another way? So there's processes there. But again, if you want to, already just talking about P-class and Falklands, I'm sure there's some amazing stories there.
Yeah. Are you given any?
Was he the one who stunk the Belgrano?
Probably knows someone who knows someone. Yeah. Are you given any media training by the mob? If you go down this line of becoming an author, do they give you training on what you can and can't say, how to deal with interviews, all that sort of stuff? Or is it just purely they deal with whatever you say to them?
Yeah, basically, there's no real training. I think you've got a level, I've got a level of respect for the job I did. Yeah. So, I'm going to be careful what I say and who I talk about, and just my patriotism, maybe the way I respect. I'm not here to spill the beans or get anyone in trouble. I've just got what I believe are some exciting novels, and added with that coat of fiction. People are really enjoying them. So, and it's down to the reader to work out what's real, what's not. Yeah.
I mean, there's a hell of a responsibility there for you, isn't there? Because, you're not playing a game there. It is people's lives, the very aspect of your job. They are human beings at the end of it who, in many cases, are risking their lives in order to effectively provide information to the military.
Indeed,
yeah. Rodney's got a second part to his question. He said, I had bikes all through my naval career. Do you agree that it was amazing to get back in the saddle after a patrol at sea? So this takes us to bikes.
Absolutely. Oh, God, there's nothing nicer than putting that helmet on and just hitting the road. I'm not one for music or taking telephone calls. Obviously, with the work you do, Bruce, you do that anyway with your cameras and your commentary. But, but for me, it's a feel good. I can't imagine living without a bike. It's just that I think it's great for your mental health. I just think it's that freedom. Yeah. You just get into your world. You can either think about stuff or not think about anything and just enjoy it. Sounds really corny, enjoy the open road. But, it is. There's some amazing rides all across the UK and also, foreign as well. I did Route 66 a couple of years ago with my dad and my brother-in-law, Tim. That's probably one of the first things I did actually when I used to come back, get on the bike. Yeah. Mind you, with submarines, it takes a little bit longer for your eyesight to adjust because you're not used to long distances. So when you go into like a big room, what we would consider like this as a big room sort of thing, it would feel like the Albert Hall because you're used to seeing narrow vision and short distances on submarines. So it takes a couple of days to get your sight adjusted.
Are there any other sort of physical traits that you develop as a submariner or effects physically that life as a submariner has on you? I'd imagine you're stooping all the time. Are you having to duck all the time?
Not there used to be some really tall people that were constantly stooping. I was quite fortunate. I'm only 5'9", so it wasn't too bad. But you naturally, as you walk, you know where valves are, and as you walk along, you'll naturally do that to your head because you know there's a valve coming. So you get used to obstacles after you've hit your head a few times anyway. Apart from smelling of hydraulic oil, because there seems to be you have a certain hum about you, and maybe a little bit paler.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got some vitamins, take them with you and get them in you.
So it's just full of short gingers then, is that right? Submarines. Yeah, like I was thinking, tiptoeing is taking it to the nth degree, but like, are you conscious that you have to be quite light on underfoot when you're in a submarine?
Yeah,
like you don't want to be stomping everywhere, do you?
No, yeah, you're walking around normally. You're not running up and down ladders unless there's an emergency or action stations or emergency stations, something like that. So yeah, you're naturally quiet. But like I said, as soon as you get ashore, that quietness goes out the window because you're normally hitting the pubs and the clubs. So
rioting in the pubs.
Yeah.
Going back to bikes, I completely agree with you. That freedom aspect of it, like and I'm not complaining, folks. I'm not complaining, but I don't really get the opportunity to ride myself anymore. I've always, I tend to always have a camera on, and I'm either filming something, chatting away, or I'm in a group. I'm on one of my tours, something like that. So you've got the comms all linked up, so you're chatting away with people, and you don't really often get that opportunity to like ride for the sake of riding and ride in complete silence by yourself.
Yes.
It's not something I often get the opportunity to do anymore. And I didn't really think I missed it up until parts of last year where I started to, I really fancy just hitting the road myself again. And so I did it like a week, 2 weeks ago. I'd just come back from 9-10 days myself in the States, just hitting the road and doing a road trip. Oh man, it's so good for the soul.
It is, yeah.
I just feel like recharged now, and ready to take on what the year's going to bring. I really missed it, but it's made me aware of how much I did miss it now. So it's like, when's my next opportunity to do that? All right, cheers for that one, Rodney. Next one, Louise Worsfold. Evening, gents. I hope Grant is enjoying the luxury of something called soap and showers now he has left submarines behind. I don't know if Grant used UTVs or motorbikes during his military career, but I would be interested to hear his views on EV bikes and if they could be an asset or hindrance to operations. Best wishes to you both. Electric. So, electric within the military.
I think that I've never ridden an electric motorbike, so it's hard for me to comment on that. I think for me, the range is something that always gets me. But mind you, I know you did a piece on electric around the UK, which was good, really informative. That was a good piece of work. That was. But I don't think in the military, because especially in certain theatres, for Afghan and Iraq, for example, if you heard the noise of an EV, it still makes a noise. It's that unusual hum. I think that would attract more attention than if you're on a local bike. Yeah, because you just hear a bike and be it's a motorbike. And when we used to operate in these theatres, we used to use local vehicles. So to be mixed in, we're not using anything out of the normal. So I think if anything, that unusual noise, and especially in those worlds where you couldn't even comprehend seeing an electric bike out there, or they've even been sold. It's just. Yeah, it would heighten a sense of too much. I mean, what's that? That is a completely unusual noise from. As where a broken down, clappity, exhausted bike sounds absolutely normal, and they wouldn't look at it twice.
Like these remotely operated drones that are in wide use now, military drones, when they do drone strikes on targets and stuff. How are they powered? Are they electric or are they traditional engine?
Both.
Both.
So it depends on the size, depends on the endurance of it. So they operate both. Depends on which one. There's lots of different variations out there.
I'm sensing the door shutting on that topic, Grant. I can tell you, but I'll have to kill you. Right, cheers for that one, Louise. Thank you very much. That is us done over on Patreon. So we'll ship across to where will we go now? Let's go Instagram. So it's at TeapotOne Insta. Hippo. This is the ex-submariner. Pete, as an ex-submariner myself, what is best, Nelly's wellies or baby's heads?
For me, that's an easy one. It's a baby's head.
Go on. Describe.
I was going to say, it's probably those people think, what is he talking about? So
Yeah,
Nellie's dwelly is a big bit of spam, which is deep fat fried, battered basically. It's known as an elephant's footprint, as we call it, but it's also known as Nellie's dwelly. I think you only ever used to get them for breakfast, I think it was. But mine was a baby's head, which is a steak and kidney pudding. And the reason it's called a baby's head is when you break the pudding, it's soft like a baby's head. And there's that breaking into a baby's head. So there's that military sense of humor coming in again. But yeah, baby's head all day long for me.
Wow. Weird bunch. Now we got chatting about curry for breakfast, and I can't remember if it was off of this or not. Do you remember? Like I was telling you, in the Met, we used to get operational feeding sometimes. So for things like, Notting Hill or big football games or everything where there's going to be like hundreds of old, or maybe even thousands of old Bill being deployed, then you would all you'd all get on your vans and your buses and you'd head up into central London. And there used to be a place called McMessenger Hall down the road from the old Scotland Yard. And you'd go in there and it would be all Met catering staff, who were generally always Caribbean. It was all these big Caribbean ladies. And you knew them from various different nicks around London. But it would be like 3-4 o'clock in the morning and you'd get curry or like a full-on chips and just like an evening meal almost at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that was just the Met catering way of doing things.
Yeah, I think that came from, I talked about how certain meal times, because you lose track of time and day, because you work that 6 hours on, 6 hours off.
That was it.
1 till 7, 1 till 7, or 1 till 7, 7 till 1, 1 till 7, 7 till 1. So sometimes you wake up, or when you're coming off watch, and because you don't know what time of the day it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Eating, your meal indicates you what time of day it is, but also depending on the meal, will tell you what day it is as well. Yeah. So, for example, Saturdays is always steak, Sundays always pizza in the evening, Sunday roast in the day, and you have an Indian night, an Italian night. So, yeah, that's how we got onto the curry. But yeah, depends on what day it is, depends on what food we have.
Did you do fish Fridays on a submarine?
Yep, Friday. Fish and chips on a Friday. So, you wake up, there's fish and chips, it's Friday and it's lunchtime. Yeah. And that's your clock, really. So the menu is your clock.
Yeah, that's right. That's what took us onto that. And I was saying that just doesn't work in the old Bill, because you just get food. Doesn't really matter what time of day or what day it. Although, yeah, that's right. In the Met, Friday was always fish day, so you'd always get fish at some point for an evening meal on a Friday. And then there was a Nick, Croydon Nick in South London, that used to have the best canteen in the Met. Again, it was all these Caribbean ladies that worked in it. And one of them, she used to make these incredible curries. They were notorious. Coppers from all over the Met used to come to Croydon. And like I was telling you, we used to have like the Thames division, the people that worked on the Thames. But there's no river in Croydon, but they'd turn up for it. You'd get the helicopter lot, they'd turn up for it. Just everyone would descend on Croydon Nick on a Thursday. But progress is progress. They privatised it.
The menu used to go out. The menu used to go out the window when we used to, if the fridges broke or someone died and they needed to put the body in the fridge. So then if anything like that happens, and then you wake up and you start getting steak for breakfast and ice cream's coming out all the time, then you know that something's going on with the fridges. And live like a king when that happens.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, someone passing away when you're on tour. Bloody hell. Do you not just eject them out the tube into the sea? And
that would be one way of doing it, but I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore.
Sorry, it's very disrespectful. I do apologise. Bloody hell, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Crikey. Did you watch that that BBC drama? What was it called? The one that was based on the submarine. Yeah, look at his face. You're telling me that's not what day-to-day life is like?
I'm probably, unlike probably most military people, and like you, watching a police movie or something like that. Yeah. We're the worst people to sit and watch those things with. We just tear it apart. No, I couldn't stand that.
What was your biggest niggle with that then?
The size of the submarine, how big it was inside.
Right, yeah.
But I think the bunk space was pretty realistic, but the rest of it was like, looked like luxury.
It was a good series. As an outsider, I really enjoyed watching it. I can't remember what it was called now. there'll be people screaming at the screen.
It was cool. Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, but I did watch it. You know, I found it a bit painful. My wife found it even more painful because she had to sit next to me.
Right, cheers for that one, Pete. Hippo, next one, Real Schwerty. Evening both. I have no connection to police or military, so please forgive if this is ignorant. How come Grant had operations in the UK and what were they about? Also, did he ever experience our German forces and can give his opinion? In Germany, the military is not in high regards like in other countries. I think mostly due to faulty equipment and other training standards. So he's saying, why did you have operations in the UK and can you say what they were about?
Can't really say what they were about, but we're very much, the military work, certain elements of the military will work with the police and other government organisations because we have a skill set, and the police also have a certain skill set, and other government agencies do have those skill sets. And the more we can work together, to increase our resource, the better things we can do together. I mean, when I did some of my training, I was actually taught by Kent Police, my driving. Evasive driving, fast, high-speed driving, etc. So that was really good. So we worked with them then. But yeah, so sometimes we get drawn in, not all the time. Sometimes we get drawn in to help in certain situations, or we have a natural ability. So when we're not abroad, we can help in the UK as well. Whether it's helping to train or whether it's actually running the ground with in forces with whoever. But yeah, can't really talk about those. But at the same time, you see the military coming in all the time, helping op fresco when the firemen used to went on strike. And I think during the mad cows disease, collecting all those, and foot and mouth, sorry, not mad cows disease, it was foot and mouth, wasn't it? They came in to help with all that. Again, NHS, when the strikes come on, they come in. So the military are always working well with more civilianized organizations. And I think that's a good thing. I don't like a divide.
No, yeah, absolutely. We used to do, like in the surveillance side of things, you used to work with MI6 and certain divisions of the military as well, yeah. So there is what's the word? Cooperation going on.
Collaboration.
That's the one. Yeah. Certainly around central London at times. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, during the Olympics, there was a military working alongside our police there as well.
Yeah, and certainly over like the last, it's 10 years now, isn't it? Basically since, I remember at one stage, it definitely felt like people were getting really quite complacent about the terrorist threat within London, because it'd been a long time since the tube bombings, 2005, and I remember I went away, did the big trip, came back sort of 2014-ish, and it was like, you could tell the government was really taking its foot off of things, and it was cutting budgets massively. Yeah. And then Charlie Hebdo happened. Remember in Paris, the attacks in Paris. And oh my God, from then onwards, we were just under attack basically from then on, weren't we? And it was really interesting to see all the different, because I did some work with we had a counter-reconnaissance team within diplomatic protection. And I mean, it's by no means like high level, it's very basic level, but you'd send footies out, just plainclothes, basic surveillance officers who would be out doing stuff. And their role is, it's basically to be in an area and lifestyle it, get to know all the people who work there, all the, who are the people that pass through here every day at the same time. Exactly. And then through that, you can identify those who aren't normally there, and you're like, oh, okay, right, what are you up to? So it's that sort of stuff. And then obviously that information is passed on probably down towards yourself and other people. And I found that really quite interesting. Just, we were just on the periphery of all that, just gathering the intel, how the intel was just put into the system. And very occasionally you'd get a little sort of nod from somebody that would be like, yeah, that was useful, and you're just like, oh, okay, right, cool. Yeah. Thank you very much.
The littlest things.
Yeah, it was weird. It was simple things, like just a description of a person and something that they were wearing, something that they were carrying. That then ties into another little bit of info that they've got, that somebody else has got, and it's all little pieces of a jigsaw. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting to see how all that works. Yeah, cool. Obviously, Schwerty had another part there. What's your opinion of other overseas or other countries' military? You can be diplomatic.
Globally, well, you mentioned the Germans. I've never worked for the Germans or with the Germans, so I couldn't comment on them. So yeah, I couldn't comment on them. But I've worked with various militaries. I would say, yeah, I'm not keen on the US military. I'll be fair. I don't think they're the most highly trained. They are a bit loose, should we say? Bit unpredictable. But I've worked in areas where the American military they get very bored. They start tinkering. Imagine being in a watchtower for sometimes an 8, 9, 10-month deployment, and they're there for 10 hours a day, and then next day they're there 10 hours a day, and they get itchy. And there's a lot of misfiring weapons, unfortunately, where they're tinkering and playing. So I'd rather keep away from them. I worked with the Australians. They were quite good in small. I enjoyed working with the Australians. I also worked alongside Afghan and Iraqi forces, and they're not the best trained. We tried to train them, which was good, but they put their heart and soul into it, and they're good. They're good. They want to make a difference as well. So
yeah. It's interesting what you said about the Americans, because we used to work with the Secret Service, particularly around the American ambassador when he was obviously lives in London, and like how the Secret Service deal with security compared to how like we, as in the Met, dealt with security. The old American embassy used to be just outside Mayfair, and it's surrounded by residential buildings, just big, huge 5-6 story high, multi-million pound residential flats that are owned by everyone and anyone that you could think of. And the Secret Service would want you to come in and basically evict everybody all around the embassy because the president's coming, and you're just like, you can't do that. And they're just like, yeah, but the windows are all, the windows overlook the roads and the entrance and egress points of the embassy. They overlook the embassy themselves. They're at the same level a lot of the time. And like the Secret Service were just like, we need this whole place sterilized. And you're like, well, you can't. It's tough luck. You've put an embassy in the middle of where people live in London. You can't do that. So that was their attitude towards things, was just like vacate it. Hit the nail with a hammer, deal with it. And was not the way that when you watched the UK military as well, how they dealt with things. I always got the impression the UK military was much more clinical and specific with how they dealt with stuff.
Yeah, and they put us in the hardest areas. So we were always, the US were very much on the periphery, and I noticed that the UK forces were very much in the hard areas. And that's what we're good at. We're one of the best in the world. That's what we're good at.
Yeah. Right, cheers for that one, Schwerty. Next one, King Bespoke Creations. How you doing, Chris? Hi, chaps. Question for Grant. Did you ever do any writing while stuck in the submarines, bored to death?
Didn't do too much, basically because we were working that 6 hours on, 6 hours off. So the small time you had off, by the time you'd gone to bed and then got up, you end up with about 2-4 hours sleeps a day, roughly. As you just in that cycle, and you never really got too much writing. And if you were caught probably writing something, I'd probably get ribbed. So, you just, but no, never had time to write. I used to write as a youngster, which was great. And now I have time to write again. It's just getting in there. I started a master's actually in Plymouth University in September in creative writing. So I'm hoping that'll, and that's off the back of my books. So I'm hoping that'll go somewhere as well. So.
Are you actually doing the course, or are you teaching it? What's
the course? Actually, doing a master's. Yeah, not teaching. Not that clever yet.
What would you identify as your weaknesses are then in terms of your writing? What would you like to improve?
I think you're always going to improve. I don't think no one's perfect in writing. Like I said, Ian, my editor, the way he taught me on certain things. How would I like to improve? I don't know. Can't put my finger on something to say, I would like to improve this. I just want to make myself better. I know there's a lot more to me. And I think doing a master's is you're going to have this, various elements of that I can incorporate into my style. I think reading reading helps you write as well. If you could read a lot, I think you don't read always the same style because your writing will naturally adapt to that style. But read all sorts of genres, etc., and that just gives you a bit more creativity. You can, you end up picking little bits, but you add your own mark on it as well. So
yeah, interesting. Like, obviously, you've got 6 books in line with was it Frank Tanner?
Frank Tanner's the protagonist,
that character. Yeah, so he's the main character in that series. At the moment, do you have an idea where you'll go after that series?
No. There's lots of little things I'd like to do. I've got a pad that I put all my ideas on. There's a couple of off-the-cuff books I want to do, sort of one-offs. Funny enough, when you mentioned that homeless person earlier on, the military, I was going to do a book about homeless veterans. Go and live on the street a couple of days with each one and get their story, and find like 20 of them and put in the story, and then obviously the money made from that to go into helping those people. But we're talking about 5 years' time to get to that. So that's there, and I've got a few other one-off stories that I want to do. The Be Frank short stories, they're going to always hopefully get one out every couple of months there for that. But no, I don't know what I'm going to do when Frank's, he might be ended, he might not, who knows.
Oh, like it. A film in the pipeline, possibly?
Oh, what a dream that would be, eh?
You must have that in your head. When you're writing these books, do you write them almost like a screenplay? Like, are you setting situations and plots up, thinking, with a director's head on?
I feel when I write certain scenes, I think, how would that look as a movie? I try to write to create that exciting scene, or imagine the characters standing there and the atmosphere they're in, etc. So I do almost write like that, actually. So if there are any famous directors out there, please contact me.
So who has the lead role?
Oh, well, if not me, and you're unavailable as well.
Obviously.
Oh, I don't know. Who looks bald and good looking?
Is it going to have to be? Would you pick
Jason
somebody?
Statham, there you go. That's probably the closest one to him. I don't know.
Right. If anyone's got any contacts for Jason Statham, get him this book.
Please give him the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. So that's the Instagram one's done. Let's pop across to Facebook. So I'm pushing through because I'm conscious of time on this.
Yeah, that's fine.
So cross on to Facebook. First one, Dave Perry. So it's really good TV. How you doing, Dave? Looking forward to this. Question 1. Does Grant carry on his career through Frank? And if so, is there any situation Grant wouldn't enter where Frank does?
Good question. I suppose Frank is my career. I try to keep the story that I reflect my experiences into current climates, so there is, the Ukraine-Russia conflict in the first one, there's an element of that in there. So I don't think there's anything I wouldn't do yet, because I still always look for that edge. I'm always looking for something, what's next? And I think, like we said last night, what's next for me? Is it I'd like to do the Tassables, the race across the Sahara, I'd like to do Everest Base Camp, kilometre. There's always something. And a friend of mine, Lee Spencer, also known as a rowing Marine, he's an amputee, and he's the same. He's got 3 or 4 world records now, and he's always looking for something else. He still doesn't stop. I think that's part of our mentality, that we'll never say no to anything, and we'll always put ourselves in a situation and then deal with the consequences afterwards. So there's nothing I wouldn't do that Frank wouldn't do. But he's living my life, and I'd like to hope that I can continue living his life as well. So
yeah. So have you kept the books? Are the books very true to life in terms of like operational procedure and what you can and can't do? Or I'm assuming you must Hollywood eyes it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit. So there is certain processes on there. You've got to be really careful how you write those and the way we do business. So you have that element of excitement to it as well. But again, like I say, it's down to the reader to work out what's real or what's not. But I try to keep it current. For example, in Trust No One that came out last year, there's a scene where there's a painted picture of King Charles, because he's the current king. Normally it would be the Queen, and during my operational time, it was always the Queen. So adapting the book so it's as current as it can be.
Gotcha. Dave also asked, what is Grant's coping mechanism whilst on board a sub? As I would imagine there is no escape from work. Yeah, how do you deal with like when you're not working, those 6 hours on the downtime?
Well, that's 6 hours on your downtime. 4 of those are spent sleeping. Really, there is opportunity there is some physical equipment. So there's a rowing machine, but that's stuck between 2 electrical cabinets, and you can't bend your arms. You just got to do that. And then you got a bike up on the forward escape, and you got some weights down in the bomb shop where the torpedoes are. But depends on you don't want
to drop them.
No, well, if you're at PD and there's a slight swell, you're lifting, and then you feel yourself going like that. So sometimes that's put out because obviously it depends on the atmosphere in the submarine. If the CO2 levels are high, then the equipment will be out of use. So the atmosphere is always monitored. So it depends on that. Depends if you can do your fizz. If not, get in your bed, get some sleep if you can. Sometimes there's a movie on. There's always ways of doing things, and everyone's always chatting and spinning dits and stuff like that. So,
do the mentalists amongst the crew, do they like run laps around the boat?
No, so there is some larger, like the bombers, like the V-class submarines that I used to be on. The big the bombers, as we call them. They're our nuclear deterrent bombs. There is around the missile compartment. You can run around there. So some people do laps around there. They're a lot bigger than the small T class I was on, the A class.
Right. Oh, so you were on the smaller ones. In my head, I had it that you were on the great big massive.
I was on both.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I served on both.
Bloody hell. What's it like? What's it like on the big, massive nuclear class subs?
Sometimes you go to sea and then you'll see someone like a month later. I didn't realise you were on board.
Wow, really?
People just disappear. It's so big. Suddenly people just go off and they're in their departments, or you just might miss them. So sometimes you don't see people for a long time.
Did you ever think about the weapon load that you're carrying? Like what your actual role was within those boats?
Yeah, I mean, I know what's on board, but we always look at it. We're a deterrent. We're not there to. We're not there to start a fight. We're there to hopefully stop it. All countries, well, not all countries, a lot of countries have nuclear weapons, and we need to have that capability to protect. Otherwise, you become a bigger target.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, we chatted about this in depth last night, didn't we? And that in an ideal world, no one would have them, but that's not life, and it's not human nature. It's human nature to be tribal. It's human nature. You need someone to be in charge, don't you? Somebody has to take that alpha male role. Whatever sex they are, someone has to take that role that they're in charge. Because without that, we don't function. It all goes to shit if you don't have someone in charge. But with that tribal mentality, you always have somebody or group of people that will want more, and they'll take more. If you find something weaker, it's the animal in us, isn't it? And the stronger will take from the weak at some point. That's going to happen. And if you haven't got that deterrent, then you're just leaving yourself open. It's sort of naive. I think it's naive to think what's happening 1,000 odd miles to the east with Ukraine and Russia. It's naive to think that can never ever happen here in the UK, because it did 80 odd years ago. It was happening here. So those days could come back for sure. Hopefully,
we need the protection and be ready for it.
Yeah. But then the counter argument with that, not to delve too deeply into this or spend too much time on it, but obviously the counter argument is, well, it's a ridiculous argument, because what protection is it? Because if we use them, we're all fucked. If we launch missiles, we're all fucked. So
we are. Yeah, I agree with that. It only takes one.
It's just that it is, but it's just that deterrent, isn't it? It's hopefully everybody is the same mentality, that nobody's ever going to push that button. But it's just there, just to say, cool flannels. We're not going to go to that level.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. All right. Cheers for those questions, Dave. Next one, Daz Salmon. This is actually the last one, mate. Daz Salmon. 2 questions. That's right. Can you complete the RAF Regiment's 5 miler of death? Always makes me laugh, this.
Where do we start on this one? Well, the RAF rage, they
Can you do it, Grant? Can you do it? Could you do it?
Oh,
Can
yeah,
you
I
complete
reckon I can do it. Yeah. I'll take up the challenge. I'm quite happy to take that challenge on.
With one leg.
Back in the day, definitely. Now, don't keep yourself as fit, but I'll still keep quite fit. I reckon I'll give it a good go. But yeah, the RAF rage are, they're the butt of a lot of military jokes and units.
It's harder than P Company, though, isn't it?
It's difficult to turn left, and left. It's you just guard a perimeter. But no, they do a good job. The runways are kept safe.
Yeah. It's rich for me to have a pop because I've never served, and fair play to anyone that does it. I've got a mate who's ex-RAF regiment, and he's been on the podcast, and everybody just ripped the piss out of him. And he took it well. He did take it well.
It didn't help them. A video got released not long. I can't remember when it was, a few years ago, and the way they were talking, that particular person, didn't help their cause. That's all I'm saying.
I think I've seen that video. But I think I sent that video to my mate Dave, the ex-regiment guy. Next one. Did we effectively employ our CHIS network when up-pitting was initiated? As it seemed to the rank and file, we just left them. We just let them be after all their sacrifices. So up-pitting, that was the withdrawal from Afghan.
It was the 2021 withdrawal from Kabul in Afghan. If we were running, I was after my time, so I left the service in 2016, so it's 5 years after I'd left. I'd like to think if we had the utilisation of CHISs then, that we would have used them to make best use of them to get as many people out as possible. I hope that all the people that should have got out. I can't guarantee that. I don't know the full figures, but yeah, they deserved to have that opportunity to leave after helping us if they got that, and I hope they did. Hard for me to comment on something that was beyond my time in the military, but I hope everyone who deserved to get out got out. That's all I can say on that.
There's I was listening to a podcast recently with Tim Kennedy. Have you heard of him? He's UFC, but he's also, was he ex-SEAL or Ranger or something? He was Special Forces in the American military. I think it was a SEAL. I think he was a SEAL. But he's come out and he's set up now what do they call it? An NGO? Yeah, is it an NGO? Like a private company.
Yeah, private company, security company.
Yeah, and they are going back into Afghan now to find the interpreters and the CHISs and everything that they used and get them and their families, or the ones who are still alive, get them and their families out. So that's still going on now. And he's really quite vocal about it. A lot of the American military in particular are quite vocal because they kind of feel like they betrayed a lot of those Afghans, the interpreters and people like that. So there's a lot of people out there now.
Yeah, they risked their life for us, and it was promised to them that they would, if we ever withdrew, they'd come with us. Again, I don't know how many came and how many were left. I don't know those numbers, so I couldn't comment on it. But I just hope that the people that should have been withdrawn did get withdrawn. Yeah.
How do you deal with the political aspects of that role? CHIS handling, agent handling. I would imagine there'd be times. Did your conscience come into play at all? Was your conscience tested? And how do you deal with that? Because you have a job to do, obviously. And I would imagine there could be times when perhaps the good of the job or the good of the end result could come in direct conflict with maybe personal morals at that time. I mean, how do you deal with situations like that?
There is, I've been in a situation when I was in Iraq where I was running a certain CHIS and they were in an area doing some work that we'd retasked them to do, which is quite close to home of what we were trying to achieve. And then the powers that be said that actually we need to relocate that CHIS somewhere else. So you need to pull him out there, put him somewhere else, because actually we need some more critical information. And in my eyes, that was not more critical. He should have been doing what was being done. What's the word I'm looking for? He should have been doing what I wanted him to do, which was to find the information that's more closer to home. Being careful with my words. But the powers that be ended up ordering me basically to retask him and take him somewhere else. So I held off as long as I could, but it gets to a point where I can't make any more excuses and I've got to pull him out and take him somewhere else. So at the end of the day, I have to look at it in a black and white. So everything's black and white. I always find a purpose for what I'm trying to do or what I achieve. What is the end result of what I'm trying to do? As long as I can justify that, then I'm quite happy to put that in a box. That goes to the back of the shelf.
One last question from me. If you could have your time again, what would you do different?
Don't think I would.
Mega.
Honestly, I'm probably a rarity maybe, but I had a great career, a great life. No complaint. Obviously, it's been ups and downs, as we all have it. But yeah, I would have learned from a few lessons I've done on the way, but fundamentally, no.
Can't we all?
Life's been good. I've loved it. I've enjoyed it. I've tried to make the most of it. We've all had close calls, and I'm still standing, still walking, still alive. So I look at that as a success in life at the moment.
So other than base camp, Marathon des Sables, you've got the new bike coming as well, haven't you? We can chat about that in a second.
About that, yeah.
What else have you set your sights on for life ahead? Like what goals you got?
Do you know what? I love spending time with my friends and family. That's always key. But I'm still massive for traveling. There's loads of places I still want to travel. I haven't been skiing for several years now. I used to ski nearly every year, so I'm starting back skiing again every year, starting from next year again. What do I really want to do? Just something. I've got a bucket list still. I want to sail across the Atlantic or around the world. My wife's given me permission to have a year out and do that, so that's good.
What, solo?
Solo. But what I'll do it in stages and invite people. Say, look, I'm going from A to C. Jump on board for that trip. So I'd probably do it that way, since I always have someone with me.
Awesome.
There's all sorts. But it's just time. Just find that time. So I'm trying to while I'm still fit and healthy, just try and crack at least one thing in a year, maybe two. But the Sables is definitely one. Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro, the sailing. I'd love to do something like trek the North Pole, something like that. Amazon, Great Wall of China, would love to walk that. Just anything really. Awesome. Done my diving with sharks and that, so I enjoyed that. That was good. That was I did it in two places, in the Bahamas, and then I did the Great Whites with Cage in South Africa when I was, which was good, in a place called Harmanis with my Lucy's sister lives out there, and her husband Vern. So we went and stayed with them. And went and done that. It's brilliant.
What's that like to be that close to them?
Yeah, well, you're in there and you don't even see them coming. You're looking around for them and then they just appear. But they're big. But you're in a cage. Jaws ruined me. I remember Jaws when I think I might have been 5-6 years of age seeing Jaws, and it freaked me out to the extent, like, even sit in a bath or a swimming pool and you're still looking around. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but you're still looking. All I hear is dead. But I would love to do that. I would love to dive with great whites. I'd love to do it. Oh, yeah. Maybe one day. Yeah.
We'll see. Right, dude, that is us. Again, conscious of time. I'm so sorry that we had to redo this, because obviously there's I kind of feel we've skipped through a lot of stuff. We've covered a lot, I think, but we definitely went into more detail, or we just fluffed it a bit more last night. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe it was because you were constantly going last night. There was, and you were constantly going, "What did you say?"
Oh, that too. Yeah.
But before we go, is there anything else you want to say? Is there any plugs you want to go through? Floor yours.
We at least need 10 minutes on bikes, don't we?
Go on then. What's the new bike?
Well, last night when we spoke, obviously I hadn't told my wife. She now knows. So I've been struggling on the next bike for a long, long time. And yesterday I finally made my decision. I test drove it in South Africa last year, and I ended up getting a Harley Davidson Sportster S. Mm-hmm. what a bike. 1250 engine. It doesn't feel like a Harley, doesn't ride like a Harley. You can roll it. It's got the speed. It's got the torque. A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
and you can come
nice
down
engine.
and ride mine, and you can do a bike review. There you go. You can ride mine.
I've done it. I've reviewed the Sportster S. Thank you. Yeah. I like the engine, but I prefer that engine in the Pan America, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, obviously the Pan. Yeah, so similar to the GS 1200.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else I said about it. To be honest, it's been a while since I rode it. Yeah. I can't remember, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying, because it's not a Harley. It doesn't feel like a Harley. It's a totally different engine. That engine. That's right. We got chatting about Harleys and stuff last night, didn't we? And I was saying they made sense to me once I rode one, like the traditional Harleys. You know, the 118cc, great big living, breathing, thumping engine. It was like,
so I used a Road King across Route 66 with my dad. So he had a Road King, and I think he had a Street Glider, and they're ideal for that, big, bulky, long, flat roads. As where this Sportster F, it's great on the country roads, and you can really, grind in. But I only got that because I had the GS 1200 last year, which we done the Black Mountains in Wales on. Yeah. And I was just about 2 inches too short for it. Yeah. And when I had a pillion on the back, I just felt unstable on my toes all the time, especially when you got weight as well. So you got, all your boxes on and your tent and everything like that. And I got knocked off. Fell off it twice. Once where someone just clipped my front wheel and just took the balance off me. And the other one was I rode into some sand with the wife on the back, and we naturally went over like that. But the great thing is when they're on the floor is they're so heavy that someone has to come and pick it up and help you. So luckily the helmet's on to disguise your embarrassment. But before that, it was sports bikes, the R6, the R1. Love the sports bikes. But yeah, I just this Sportster F, I keep swaying to it. I test drove a Ducati Scrambler a few weeks ago, 850. Great all about town. Didn't think much to it. If you're like wanting to overtake or long distance, Deval, too expensive. So yeah, I kept gravitating back to this, and because I test drove it last year as well, I just loved it so much. I thought, you know what, I've got to make a change. Just give it a go, see how it goes.
What was you were talking about Captain Jasper's last night in Plymouth. Yeah. What was the route that you were talking about? Is it the Torbay Corners or something?
Tor Point Twisties.
Tor Point Twisties.
Tor Point Twisties, yeah. It's the Cornwall side, so you go across the bridge into Cornwall and you go all the way around to Tor Point. It's a lovely, lovely road, honestly. Long sweeping bends up and down. It's a known road for bikers. It's a good road. Yeah, but Captain Jasper's is, again, we all go there. Footlong hot dogs and all that. Good burgers.
It's got to be done.
But the only other bike I've got in my garage at the moment is I've got a Triumph Bonneville 1968 T120. It's great. It's a classic.
That was your dad's one, wasn't it?
Yeah, handed down from my dad. So I used to wait for him. He got me into bikes. He's a bike and cars. So he's a petrol head and got me into it. And from a young age, waiting down at the end of the garden, waiting for him to come home from work, and you could just hear the roar of that engine exhaust coming down the road. He used to open the gate, bring me in, he used to pick me up, put me between the tank and him, and then just ride me around the back, and I'm hooked on bikes. And that bike now is with me. Love it. Needs a bit of work doing to it, but we'll get there.
You say you're going to keep that. That's going to be like a family heirloom.
Yeah, that'll be passed over. That's definitely, I've got to keep going.
Awesome. That's right, because I was chatting about I think it was a Sir Douglas Dragonfly. No, Sir Douglas, but is it Barnett? Why is that name pop into my head? It was a Douglas something, I think, that my dad used to own in the maybe 60s, 50s, 60s. He had one. And I had this idea in my head that I would love to find one that was identical to what my dad had and redo it. So he'd have that bike. But I can't see him ever chucking I can't see him. In my life, I've never known my dad to ride a bike. And it was only after I started riding bikes that he came forward with the stories of him used to having a bike, and he had a bike when he met my mum. And I think it was the old adage, once the kids came along, that was it, both bikes gone. So that was that.
Never.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So where do people go if they want to find out more information?
So I've got a website, www.grantspencerbooks.com. That'll also link my books to Amazon. I've got a Facebook page, Grant Spencer. It's a public page, and also my pen name, B Frank. That's also Facebook, Instagram, Grant Spencer Books, and then Amazon. So search on Amazon, Grant Spencer or B Frank. They will link to both the short stories that I've done and the novels that I'm writing. There's 6 books. There's only one on there at the moment, so 6 books is coming. Give me time.
So the first book is called what? That's the one that's out now,
Trust
the
No
novel?
One.
Trust No One. And then the next one is out. Is that Bribed in Blood?
Bribed by Blood.
Bribed by Blood. That's out in May, is that right?
That's May, June time.
May, June, right, okay. And then there's the
B Frank.
The B Frank series, the short story series as well. Folks, I'll put all the links that we just spoke about, they'll all be down below. So if you're watching the vids, check out the vid description. And if you're listening to the podcast, have a look at the show notes and there'll be links all there for you. So make sure you give Grant a follow and get the books. Oh, audiobooks. We spoke about this.
Yeah, so audiobooks will come. The short stories are definitely going to come quite quickly. The longer the books, I think like we said last night, I didn't realise there's a lot more to it. It's my brother-in-law, Aaron, was telling me, he's a musician. He was like, you should start reading it. You've got to set a whole week aside for it, because if you do a bit now, and I did a bit next week, and then the following week I had a cold, so my voice would sound different, and it just doesn't go well on the audiobook. So yeah, it's a time thing, and I'm going to be doing it myself because the cost to get it done is crazy. Hiring actors to do it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, top tip from him. So it's going to happen eventually.
That's interesting, because that's my plan is to do my book as an audio book, and that's what I thought I would do, is just grab an hour here and there and just do it over a series of months. But that's not going to work, is it? So I'll have to make that a project maybe for the winter. Get that done. Right, awesome, man. Yes, thank you very much. Apologies about having to redo this today.
That's all right.
But it's been enjoyable, mate. I've enjoyed it. Obviously we met 2 years ago now.
It's probably about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, with Graham Hoskins doing the Adventure Bike TV.
ABTV,
yeah, the season opener, basically, the road trip in Wales. And I had no idea about any of this. I had no idea about that. I think towards the end of the weekend, I knew about a little bit about your military side, but no in-depth stuff. And it's only recently, like within the last year, I think, that I've become aware that you're actually an author. So it's been really good finding out more about you, man. And like I said, I'm not a big reader for sure, but I will make the effort and I'll get that first book. But I'm really waiting for the audiobooks, because I demolish audiobooks. I love having them.
No, brilliant. I'll let you know when it's out. But I hope everyone enjoyed listening. Please follow me, and any questions, get in touch. If you've got a story, you don't want to do with it, get in touch.
Fantastic. There you go, folks. Right, folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Grant, thank you very much for coming on again, mate. And folks, keep doing your thing. Get on out there, look after those that you love. But most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ha!
100%.
Dude, awesome.
See you later. Thank you.